Yeah, look, appreciate y'all being here. I understand that you've got a lot of questions about the draft, but first I want to hopefully answer the questions about Derek Carr. He does have an issue with his shoulder. We're hoping to get some resolution and clarity on that in the near future, and when we do, I'll report back to you. Otherwise, I don't have anything more to state about Derek, but I'm open to any pre-draft questions that you might have.
Maybe would you say when the news broke about Derek that you were surprised by it, or was this something that's new up?
Yeah, I'm just not going to answer any more questions about Derek. I mean, this is a pre-draft. If you have questions about the draft, then I'm more than happy to answer those. But in terms of the roster and Derek, I'm not going to answer any more questions about that today.
The uncertainty about that house and new starting still that's continuing to come out in the world. That's actually right. That's the biggest grab top.
Yeah. Again, I'm not going to answer any questions about Derek at this time.
Just I think to tell you something about Derek. How does the draft approach? What is the draft approach? Knowing what now?
Yeah, I don't think the draft approach for us is any different than it would be in any year. We're looking for as many good players, great players as we can find. And look, we're fortunate enough this year to have, multiple picks in the first 4 rounds. And we're excited about that because I think there's some depth in this draft that we'll be able to help our roster.
And Derek, how do you feel about the
Yeah, I feel really good about it and excited about the staff, the new staff, excited about some of the things that we're doing that are different. And I feel like from the player standpoint, I just feel a level of excitement and enthusiasm that gives me a lot of positive feeling.
We all heard all those things about Derek a couple of weeks. That's something you knew about. Well,
yeah. Again, this is a pre-draft press conference. I'm not going to answer any questions like that. We got a lot of time between now and the season.
It's just a general zero question. That's kind of name that we got restructured contracts. Yeah, like that comes with the new signing bonus. Do those signing bonuses come with passing of physical?
Yeah, it depends. They don't have to necessarily come with restructures. Can come in all sorts of forms. So, yeah.
Could you outline your draft must be again as it relates to game Carr scenes?
Yeah. For the 50th time now? I guess I haven't been there 50 times. Yeah, no, I got it. Yeah, I think you're looking for quality players. So we're always looking for the best player we can get at wherever we're drafting. More often than not, when you're on the clock, you've got 2 or 3 players that are all graded roughly the same, and then you go to, okay, which of these positions fits us, at that time in terms of your roster need. More often than not. Every once in a while, there's just a guy out there that's so far graded above everyone else. Well, you at least got to take this guy. That's happened to us. It happened to us when Deuce McAllister was drafted. We had Ricky Williams. We had a really good running back, and yet his grade was just so much greater than anyone else's on the board. We took him, best available player. That happened with Will Smith, as I recall, when we took Will Smith. So more often, though, you've got 2 or 3 guys in a cloud. They're all graded roughly the same. You have the same opinion about them, and then you're just sorting out by position at that point.
You see pitfalls. That's where you have to be fixated on seeing it.
Yes, I do. And I'm not saying that we haven't ever done that before, but that's, I think, generally when sometimes those turn out. Maybe you overdraft someone higher than what you've got them graded, but it turns out. But I think that a lot of times when you make mistakes, it's because the value didn't match where you were drafting.
On specific position, like let's how long the tires that maybe you weren't expecting or they get hurt trading, like something happens, the player goes, does that change your thinking that like now we have to go bid this position that there's a stack all out, or Certainly would.
I mean, it could. I don't. Yeah, I'm not saying that it necessarily. I can't think of a specific example, but yeah, I mean, you're always paying attention to your roster and who, if we had to play a game tomorrow, who are we lining up? So you always pay attention to that, but you also recognize we're not playing a game tomorrow. We've got time. Then there's other avenues to fill needs. There's free agency, there's the draft, there's trades, there's guys are going to get released during training camp, and so there's going to be other opportunities.
It might be an opportunity. That's how it works with the guy is that we're sending the if we train me to a start, so we get
yeah.
Versus trying to develop them like the diamond pouring team.
Yeah.
A lot of upside with the in the cool of us that thing into such little bad.
Yeah.
Get a guy that he said it'd be true for the 140 place.
Yeah. Well, I think that varies from team to team. You may take somebody that's more developmental if you think the upside's really huge. I think for us, if we're picking in the top 10, we're looking for somebody that, man, we're going to count on this guy for the next 8 to 10 years, and he's going to fill that spot, and we're not going to have to worry about it. That for me, that's a goal, and that sometimes that might be a home run, a perennial Pro Bowl player, but sometimes it might be a guy that just, man, we can sleep at night because we got that position covered for the next, 8 to 10 years.
The current situation, when it comes to trading up and trading back, new coaching staff, all that, would they say maybe the philosophy could be a little different this year when it comes to not giving up that extra trade up, or do you go in with the same philosophy now?
Well, look, I know my record says something different. I've never been against trading back. It just appears that way. I think when you have a new coaching staff, obviously we're getting to know each other. We're getting to know each other's philosophies. Kellen and I have talked a lot about draft philosophy, about what he wants to get accomplished in year one, where we're at, all those things. So it comes into play, yes. But I think how I feel about things and philosophy hasn't changed. And how he feels and his philosophy hasn't changed either. We're just trying to communicate that and make sure we're on the same page and aligned, which I think we are. It's been a fantastic experience so far. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's where we're at.
That's about in trade-off. As you've done that, we have to idea control.
Yeah.
Heal power and even get your active stimulation. You threw out burning for and this how long is that 2 in 1 and 2 Jack did you make for the company I can carry back to the other guy and get
I don't recall ever being burned by that. What there we go.
that
I would say this in general. When I look at it, I believe in our evaluation process. I believe in our grades. And so just philosophically, it's hard for me to say, I want to trade back and get a lesser player than I can get from moving forward. So if you move forward, you're guaranteeing yourself in my mind, a better player based upon our grades. Now, we got to be right? As opposed to going back and I might end up with a lesser player. So just, and I get that you're getting more swings, right? When you trade back, you're picking up assets and you're getting more swings. So I understand that philosophy. I don't disagree with it. They can all work. Sometimes you might feel like I can trade back and still get the guy that I was going to take. That's when it really makes a lot of sense, right? When you feel like you can move back some spots and still get the guy or one of the guys that you really wanted.
breaks set unless we took away on grades set right now.
As of this morning, yes. There's a lot of tweaking. And look, it's not like there's some dramatic change, but there's a lot of, this guy's ahead of this guy's back, grades are all in the same area. Which guy do we really prefer over the other guy? And that's when, position may come into play.
I mean, Mikey, when you talk about guys you may prefer, obviously, if you get into philosophy changes and focus, how much impact like you can be like with the Positional? What kind of time do you get to play when you like
Yeah,
and you know,
a lot. And look, the structure of our defense is changing. And so there's been a lot of conversations about that, really since the day they walked into the building, including not just with me and Jeff and Michael Parrington, but with all of our scouting staff and all the people that are involved in personnel, because we have to, in order to do a good job of evaluating for our team, we have to understand what they're asking our players to do. And so it is different. You know, the types of guys and what they're asking you to do is different.
that may be a situation like with Zach Watt, if you're outstanding with stretching penalty, and then you need that opportunity to put him in the right.
Yeah.
We will see.
Yeah.
He's stuck the like.
Yeah.
Mickey,
That's painful.
Standpoint, do you feel like this roster, your roster now, could use more help? Would that help?
Yeah.
Across the board help?
Sure.
Than maybe in some previous years.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think every GM in our league, including Philadelphia, who just won the Super Bowl, they all feel like, we got to help our roster. We got to get better here. You know, we all feel that way.
Differently, or do you feel differently about your roster this year, maybe than you did 2 years ago or 3 years ago? How's that go?
I don't know. I'd have to really put a lot of time and thought into that. I mean, because every year I feel like, man, we got to get better in this area. We got to get better in that area. I mean, the areas are different, from year to year, but I'm always feeling like, we haven't got enough. We haven't got enough. Yeah.
You know what? So where there's that super urgency, mate. Since you talked about us mining their history.
Yeah.
When you first got here, you were ready.
Yep.
You played and trade for Aaron Brooks, and then when Sean got here, you've got the Breeze, and then the Dennis took over, chased John Watson, and then you got here.
Yeah.
Is there any type of urgency to get Ellen?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always urgency about. I mean, it's just not that. I mean, you're citing that position, but there's urgency about that at every position. Is want to make sure we're getting players that the coaches want, that believe they can win with, regardless of whether they're here or not. We're always looking to provide them with the resources they need to be successful.
You know, those draft grades, what face on any since so many number, a couple more teams that comes to the draft grades and all that good stuff. What position groups have really kind of stuck out to you based on draft grades? Everything to obviously that
stuck out in terms of what?
Just like at what positions do you think this draft is like the weakest?
Yeah. I don't know if I want to say that. Yeah. I feel like that there's more defensive linemen than most years. That we have great, and look, we got the same numbers, right, every year. But in terms of, top 2 or 3 rounds, I feel like, and I don't know this guy, I haven't counted, but I feel like there's more defensive linemen than most years. And I feel like there's fewer corners, for example, than most years. But I haven't really quantified that. And so it's hard for me to answer that question. I just did, but not that confident in the answer.
Maybe you say, what is that classes?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's guys that are good quarterbacks, really good quarterbacks. And I don't know if the quantity is the same as some other years, but that goes up and down, and look, one thing about that position, I think that you fall in love with somebody. I think each of our teams, sometimes that's a different guy.
You like go back to like the team with Garrett Grayson and just going for
yeah
philosophy and never like urgency and bleach horse starting on this 5-night done quarterback thought stuff and getting it and going with some of maybe hasn't aligned where you wanted to do with that. But sir, like how do you guys look at that?
Yeah, I think look, one thing is different when in the middle of Drew Brees era, right? So there wasn't a lot of urgency about that, but you're always wanting to take swings and develop, the position. That's good business. I think the thing that you have to really resist is overdrafting and taking someone that way sooner, because that's opportunity cost, right? If we take somebody way sooner than maybe we should have, we're taking a swing. If it doesn't work out, we missed out on whatever player who ended up being the Pro Bowl or, whatever it is. So it's hard to resist, though. It's hard to do that sometimes.
What about the positions where they like higher positional value and scarcity?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be bombarded about it's like big swing and like maybe.
Yeah, I think that, what we perceive as high position value affects how we grade them, for example. And it certainly affects whether we take somebody, particularly when you have them all graded in the same area, right? Even if you're strong at that position.
Sticky quarterbacks and back-to-back drafts either change the way you look at the kind of how it's kind of the material the last 2 years on to look.
Yeah, I don't think that's changed anything. I mean, we like both those guys as prospects, and we like them. So I think that's, again, I think all teams are in the business of quarterbacks.
Yeah, what is overdraft and the quarterback position? If you have the ninth bid and he didn't quarterback go 20, does it become overdrafting when they're like 40th? Like what?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know that I have a great answer for that. So,
what have you done up until now? Like where have you drawn the line on? Is there more wiggle room on it?
Yeah, I think probably. Yeah.
Is it because, I just look back, I thought in history, I think they were in Seattle.
Yep.
This game of Wyatt and Rick Meyer in the first round while you were there. And
yeah, I wasn't really involved in that decision making, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Truly, arguably, those are the only two that were in the first round.
Yep.
And part of your is it just coincidence or by design because you feel like you have to be kicking and top thing you can get a guy or?
Good question. I don't know that I can answer that, though. I mean, look, the guys you fall in love with at that position, you feel like are immediate players, they're going to be taken in the top, 7 or 8, 10 picks, right? That's just the nature of it. That doesn't mean that you can't find a really good quarterback later. Just more often later, it's more speculative and there's more development that's required. So, I think that's what's the difference between taking someone in the top 5 or 6 versus taking someone later in the draft.
Does that pretty long or could be like little like?
Yeah, good question. Depends on where you're drafting. Right? I think if you're drafting up really high, you better love them.
We're going to try one more time.
Wait, want to do with my pick? I would stop the debate and then down this week. Stop.
Like from the media? None. I don't want to say 0 because we see it, but yeah.
Let me try one more time too. This is technically a follow-up to your opening statement. You said.
Do you want me to say that I'm not going to answer that right now, or do you want me to wait after your questions? Okay.
You said you hope to have clarity on the Carr situation soon. Is that clarity as to his prognosis, or is that clarity on how this happened or how this is?
Yeah. I'm gonna say the same thing here. This is for a pre-draft press conference. It's not for those questions.
Mickey, I got a senior board punch.
Yeah.
Give us all the time. Vinny Vag, he said that how he's the planets you've come to drop.
Yeah.
Together. More than look to get what a key name they're played in that can usually about something so the can you draft in first?
Yeah.
So when you start on the old league there, walked away from
Yeah, I think there was a number of comments from our personnel staff that, man, there was a lot of really good players there for the week. Some of them didn't play in the game, but a lot of them were there at the beginning of the week, and then a lot of them played in the game. Yeah, I felt like last year was the talent level at the Senior Bowl was really good as well, and man, I think there's a lot of players that really helped themselves by going not only to the Senior Bowl but the East-West game, and yeah, those are valuable exposures for players, and are certainly valuable to us as evaluators.
It's been like on like GD quarterback position. And
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. You know, we've got him. We've got Scott Tolzien. We've got Doug Nussmeier, all played the position in the league, and yeah, it's been awesome.
You see differences in what you see big differences in what Kellen and Brandon Staley might want as opposed to what you were getting. I mean, look, you kind of had the same regime for a long time.
Yeah.
Are you seeing like fundamental differences in things they're looking for?
I don't think there's any real differences in terms of the intangible things. You know, the makeup of the players. I think there are some differences, particularly on defense and in what we're looking for based upon a different structure of the defense. But look, we're all just looking for really good football players who love the game and are smart and tough, and you know, all that's the same. But there are some nuance. I think it's more, instead of differences, I'd say it's more nuance than differences.
like, if you look at the impact now, and Blaine was up on the league, it makes like the running back position. Yeah, all of a sudden, you know, like the same contact we should about Derrick Henry, and that's you feel like teams like going forward. I guess it could be cyclical.
Yeah.
So high.
Yep.
How important does that come about? Like you got 1-2 push it in Marizay.
Yep.
So you got like Suarez, the only patent running back.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think we've always valued running backs. We understand, you know, what they provide in terms of winning. I think since I've been here, we've had a lot of really good running backs, you know, Ricky Williams and Deuce and Reggie and Mark and Alvin, and I'm probably leaving a couple out, but so I think we've always valued the position. I do think that, you know, what Philadelphia did with Saquon and elevated maybe the perception of that. I think that's helped running backs in general. He's a pretty special player. So yeah, I think it did. I think it did help the perception, you know, at least, you know, league wide or maybe even in the public perception.
Maybe I'm Spencer Rattler. I mean, is you really drafted quarterback? That would be somebody that like could be above the Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, I mean, we're speculating here. Like I said, it's just, you know, we're in the business of developing quarterbacks. We like the guys we've got. That doesn't mean, you know, we're going to draft. How many draft picks we got? 9. We're going to draft 9 players. You know, they're going to be different positions. It doesn't mean that we don't like the guys at those positions that we have. It just means we're trying to add to the mix and create competition and make ourselves better. And so I don't think it's any different.
It's, as far as running game though, you have a philosophy, you know, like some people think you need that the perfect offensive line before you put a 3D asset in the back. You does it matter?
Yeah.
Which way it's all, or it's in one couple.
I don't know that I can answer that question really, but I do know this is that, you know, our philosophy and Kellen's philosophy is you build inside out, you know, offense, defensive line, you know, you got to put resources in those areas that allows you to be a good football team. And so I think we're aligned in that regard.
I mean, that kind of, sorry, another stop. I'm here. I know that you're the longest tenured kind of manager, and you got you can obviously fight back in the success here, bringing this reality in without saying up to fan to be have a message without just be a light and ride for more fan first, right?
Yep.
Is there anything about being patient or was like getting huddled? There's something that can get clarity on the situations.
Now, look, I can't. Listen, we're 5-12. You know, we got to own that. We're 5-12, regardless of why, and that falls on my shoulders. So I understand the frustration. That it just is what it is. That comes with the job, and I understand that. So I got big shoulders in that regard.
This is similar to what Ben was asking earlier, but when you look at your roster and you kind of decide how many guys Utah was like you go to sleep at night, they're all.
Yeah.
Does that factor in them and trade down? Like when you look at this roster right now, like we need to have one that you play with the efforts begin to grasp or you don't feel it.
Well, I don't know that I can answer that exactly right. I can say this though. Look, we've got first round pick, second round pick, 2/3 and 2/4. I feel really good about that. because I think we'll get good players in all those spots. And that makes me feel good. Last time we had this many picks in the first 4 rounds, I think was 2017. And that was a pretty good draft. I hope we have the same issue, with 4 years later, we're trying to keep these guys and we can't keep them all. I hope that's the issue, that they're all good players and then it becomes difficult to keep them all.
Like you were saying, then the story with quarterback without Kevin Sumlin is on the queue right now. That could be addressed in free agency or
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that question because that'll just lead to a bunch of speculation, whichever way I answer it.
Children, what do you think is, you mentioned, there's so many of the Rays and whatnot. You're saying, what do you think is the biggest positional need for this team entering the draft with so much spot capital?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that because I get the question and there is an answer to it, but I'm not going to answer it because I don't want to give away which direction we might be leaning. Appreciate the question though.
You got done rolling and you got saying support that for your question.
Listen, we study every player that's eligible for the draft, regardless of position. So that hasn't changed. You want evaluations of these guys because they might become free agents. They might fall down to you. You just never know. So, I think we're pretty diligent on really every guy in the draft. Because remember, this process starts a year ago, 2 years ago. We don't even know when we're drafting it. When we're going through that early part of the process. So you have to evaluate every player.
Is this one also like?
Well, look, you got a serious, knee injury, so it's going to be a while.
You get a bit of parts of 3 cards, you say you want to say anything, depends on the draft on, and that you more willing when the draft is included to provide clarity, or?
Yeah, I think when I have more information, we'll deal with that. Which is what I said.
That's where you thought there new buyers think the deadline may say, but a decision made on the drafting guys are it did hard.
Actually, I'll give you that. Here's the carrot. Where's Matt? Here's the carrot, Matt. So we are going to exercise the option on Chris, and we're not going to exercise the option on Trevor. But that doesn't mean we don't love Trevor and expect him to be part of our team going forward.